Greetings, mortals. And welcome back. Oh, nailed it. Oh shit. I cannot be contained. I cannot be controlled. Know this even as you die. Ever pathetic, ever fools.
Look, I can do that monologue all fucking day. Baldur's Gate 2, excellent game, by the way. Excellent game. Good game, excellent plot, and amazing voice acting. Holy shit, the Irenicus voice actor is so fucking good. I would say, let's think about the success of Baldur's Gate. Both 1 and 2. And just think about how much of that success is tied to... I'm going to go with 2 people, arguably 3, but 2 people. The narrator, the voice actor who narrates, and the voice actor for John Irenicus. Those 2 people were so good. They made such amazing performances that, like, 10 out of 10 performances. The gameplay is AD&D, which is not really a great system to run a game in, but it's not bad, right? Certainly not for the time. Like there was lots of way worse things you could build an RPG off of than AD&D at the time, and there wasn't a lot that was better. But God, that voice acting 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Excuse me. So, we are going to try to clear out. Ooh, can we get you solo? Can we get you to just rotate by yourself? I think we might be able to get you to rotate by yourself. But I almost just ate that. I'm actually not going to move this way because I want it to rotate further south. Or sorry, further east. I'm going to just dive in now. Okay. I wasn't sure like what was over this way, so I wasn't sure if it was safe to do that, but I figured it was probably fine. You know, this is the same music that they have for the Barrows, I think. This series has great music. Yeah. I can eat your shots all day, probably. So, we did make one change just now that is probably going to have a big impact, which is we added Day of Protection to our list of buffs. And with Day of Protection added to our list of buffs, we are looking at a huge durability increase. Because we now have both Day of Protection and Shield active at the same time, which is, I think, going to be a pretty big deal. I suspect things are going to go much smoother here now that we've got this set up. It also means that the lone seraph is much more viable as a buffer for the purposes that I want. So I was thinking about like bringing a paladin just for the buffing purposes if I was going to rebuild this. Basically just to get access to like all the stuff that I'm not getting access to by default, like what's the word? Like getting stuff like Bless and Fate and Preservation and just like minor spells like that, except for Preservation, which is obviously the most important one. But not like, you know, big ticket, like this is taking up half of your mana bar spells. And it might not be necessary. You might be able to use a Seraph to get the bulk of the most important stuff done, and then get the other stuff done with a different character. I should actually take a look. What am I missing in terms of buffs right now?
This is nice.
We have Preservation. We have Regeneration coming out of you. So we have Preservation. We have Regeneration. We have... we have Haste. We have Heroism. We have Shield. We don't have Stone Skin. So for mixed packs, so packs, like, as an example, the demons that we're going to be fighting eventually, for mixed packs like that, we don't have a strong answer. Because we can only have Stone Skin or Shield, not both. So we're just rotating these a little closer to the ground and splitting them up a bit. I'm going to dive this one. It might not necessarily be a great idea. It looks like it's fine. I actually waited a little longer than I should have. Though I probably don't want to move those further north anyway, so it's probably fine. So like here, it would be preferable to aggro some of those and bring them to a closer location, but it's probably fine. It does look like... it looks like we've kind of gotten out of control, I would say. The amount of durability that we have and the amount of life steal that we have is now going to be really quite a lot. I wonder if we can just... I think we just did take a boss, right? Wasn't there like an exploding dragon that we killed just now? We killed the boss that was here, I think. And I think we just kind of brute forced it to half-life, right? Despite the fact that we could have melee kited it. So... melee kiting isn't the right term for that. We could have just dodged its attacks, but we didn't. I could, now that there's only a few of these left, I could see, because most of this I did without the durability increase coming out from that resistance spell. I'm going to hold on to this just in case. I don't think I'll need it, but I'm going to hold on to it anyway. It has the thinger, but it doesn't matter that much. I'm never going to have enough... I'm never going to have enough, like, mirrors and, like, oracle orbs and things like that to do too much. Yeah, that was predictable. Oh, levitate doesn't prevent falling damage. Wait, why don't I have? Don't I have the protection cast? Oh, Day of Protection doesn't cast Featherfall anymore. Oh shit. Okay, that's good to know. Part of the reason that I even cast it was actually for that. Let's cast Featherfall. Costs 2 SP to maintain. I think we can afford that. Of course, it doesn't matter, because if I'm maintaining that, it's going to drop when I... Oh! Wait, did you summon a bunch of dragons on me? You fell down here. We can possibly just take... That's interesting. It didn't summon any dragons. Is there an issue with... Yeah, I saw that when I was copying the Earl just now. I was like, Apple TV, what the hell is this thing? Wow, that was almost dead already.
There's no room, no space. It might be useful.
Ancient Orchard with the dragon. Okay. Nailed it. Okay, we've got Featherfall. Okay, we're gonna just sit here with however many enemies are hitting us and just kind of wait a little bit.
I can't carry anymore.
Try to get them to a position that I want them in. This is above me, not below me. I don't know why I thought it would be below me. The flying enemy from the mountain. Clearly that's on the ground below me, right? Let's see. The point is to give you the... Honestly, the point might actually be just to increase interactivity. Where, what is the word? Engagement. To improve engagement. Because clicking the, don't show again button is an extra button for you to click. Which they can show off to investors as a completely meaningless thing that doesn't make them money, but which, executives don't know that doesn't make you money because executives don't know anything about how money works. Or, sorry, not executive. I mean, executives too, but I was actually thinking of investors. The number of things that exist on the internet that exist the way they do because at some point an executive lied to an investor about it is honestly probably the majority of the internet at this point. Like, I think the majority of the internet exists like in the specific form that it has because someone was defrauding their investors about how they're going to make money because of this thing that doesn't make money. Like, stuff like just weird stuff like, oh yeah, increase the amount of, time that a player has to, like, waste in a game that doesn't have microtransactions. Now, obviously, if a game has microtransactions, there's an argument that the longer that they are in the game, the more likely they are to do microtransactions. Though, how much of that is tied into people are more likely to pay for things that they like than things they don't like is deliberately obscure. I remember the name. I've heard the name MoviePass, but I'm not really familiar with it now. Like, I don't remember what their deal was. I think I can go down, but not up, right? Like, if I jump off the cliff, I can go down and not just immediately, yes. So, if I get to the top, I can actually... Oh, shit, you're not gonna approach me. You're gonna be the opposite of that. This one is now over land. Should I worry about these? Yes, I'm going to worry about these for now. Okay, we're tagging the green dragon. It'll probably die. There we go. Then we want to just go over here, get this one over land as well. It's now over land. Gotcha. So, based off of the context of what I was just saying, I'm presuming that it hemorrhaged money continuously the entire time. Consider. Because people actually like to watch movies, whereas people do not like to go to gyms. Also, gyms cost a lot more. See, that kind of model can work if the majority of the people using the service don't actually use the service and just have the service to pretend that they have it. Like, to pretend they're going to use it. So it works really well for things people think that they should be doing, but don't actually want to do, like going to a gym. Like, that is the business model of a gym, right? Like, gyms can't sustain themselves if everybody actually uses their services. Like, they simply cannot. But basically nobody who signs up for a gym membership actually goes to the gym. So, technically speaking, for the people who go to the gym, a gym is, you're kind of like making money off of it, right? You're not actually making money, but you know what I mean, right? Like, there's value there that exists in gyms because of the fact that the majority of the people are not going to actually utilize the service. And is that value greater than the amount of value that you would have by just, like, getting a weight set in your house and maybe a pull-up bar? No, probably not. Like, for 1 month's worth of subscription to your gym, you could probably make your home a better gym than the gym is. And you'd certainly be more reliably using it. But at least in theory, there's, the value there. But I can easily see, like, the angle that you would go for with trying to sell something like a MoviePass idea, where you're like, yeah, it's just like a gym, right? And gyms just make money hand over fist, right? So what you're looking for is just, if we give this thing that has value for people, nobody's going to actually use it, and then we can leverage the fact that nobody uses it to pay for it, right? And it's like, well, no, but people actually want to go see movies. Like, if it didn't cost you anything to go see a movie, would you not just watch a movie every couple of weeks? Right? Like, who wouldn't? It's free. Anyway, it's just kind of funny. Like, for someone who's going to purchase that service, I imagine that there is a very high degree of usage, which costs you money. Anyway, that's my theory as to what...
Let's leave it behind.
Like, how on track am I to what actually happened? Oh, I don't have fly active. So, another cool combo that I hadn't really thought about before, but which you can do, is you can actually jump into a fly and then use the down key to maintain your height. At a higher elevation than you otherwise could. I don't think I've ever actually done this before. But would you pay $10 in the first place to get access to the movies, right? Like, because that's what I'm talking about. It's not a matter of whether not everybody wants to watch movies. I probably wouldn't benefit from a service like that because I don't have enough interest in, watching movies to go use it, which I know in advance that I don't, right? But like for a target audience that likes to go and watch movies, which is the target audience of the people who, have the subscription, it feels like the kind of thing that they are going to actually use. Because the actual... Yeah, I'm pretty... I'm not that similar to that. I used to watch fewer movies, but nowadays I periodically will... Well, at a theater, though? No. At a theater, I maybe watch one or two a year. Like, there's a pretty high probability that the only movie that I'm going to see this year is the Deadpool movie that I just saw. And there's also a very decent chance that it's the only one that I've seen within the last 12 months. So yeah, I think that probably 1 to 2 movies a year is a reasonable interpretation of how often I watch movies at a theater. But I watch a decent amount of movies in my living room because it's very easy to do and it doesn't cost me anything because we already have the subscriptions. But the
useless.
Let's see. It also wouldn't cost me anything if, we went back to doing it the old way. And it would be less of a pain in the ass to do it now too, because I can easily hook up the computer to the thing. We could get much better quality than before. I'll need to track down some of the old movies that are basically like impossible to find these days. I'm trying to remember. There's some movies from my childhood that I wanted to show Kaz, and then I found out that there's like basically no way to legally find them. There's basically no ways to legally watch them in, the time period that we currently live within. But there's a lot of weird holes in those thingers. But at any rate, it's all good. You know what beats a gym prescription? A gym prescription is fucking Beat Saber. And weirdly enough, because of how expensive gym memberships are, or a gym prescription, as I might call it, gym prescriptions are so expensive that it's actually pretty reasonable to just buy an Oculus instead. Just buy a VR headset and use Beat Saber, because Beat Saber's awesome. Let's see. Oh, jeez! Whew. That's pretty funny. That's simultaneously very funny and what else would you have expected people to do? Right? Like, bear in mind, I live in a metropolis. If I want to do something, going to watch a movie is not a thing that I have to do. I have a billion things that I could be doing. I used to live in a place where there was nothing to do, and the only thing to do would be to go to a movie theater that's 20 minutes away, on the highway, and that was the only thing that you could do in range. So if you can spend 20 to 30 minutes getting to a movie theater in like 3 towns over or whatever, and there's nothing else around, then you're going to have people just doing that. Like, oh, okay, well, I have nothing better to do. I'm going to go watch 30 minutes of this video, of this movie, before I meet up with my friends at the mall, right? Because I can just walk in, right? If the like, this is the kind of service where if it works the way that it claims that it works, Now, to be fair, there is an argument to be sure that the actual real estate of theaters is underutilized, right? So you could easily make a service like that costs almost nothing and allows people to go into these to like screenings of films at basically no cost, as long as you are limiting the timing that they can go into them somewhat. Like if it only works for matinees, as an example, or for like undersold time periods generally, because it doesn't cost the movie theater anything in theory. We can come back to that. I think it actually does cost the movie theater something, but in theory it doesn't cost the movie theater anything to have a butt in a seat, right? It basically costs you nothing. The problem is that the movie theater is getting ripped off by the movie studio, who's like, ripping themselves off in a variety of like ways that are, generally speaking, embezzlement. So while in theory it's just good to have a butt in the seat because that butt might buy popcorn or a soda, which is just more money that you didn't have before, because that's where they make all their money anyway. In practice, that's complicated by the fact that I'm pretty sure that the movie theater has to pay for each person that watches it. They don't like pay a license to have it on X number of screens, I don't think. I think they pay that in addition to having to pay for every face that comes in, would be my assumption, based off of half-remembered shit from a billion years ago. We found them. We found the apples. Nom nom. I think it doesn't count as nom nomming unless you actually say nom nom. Alright. Alright. So we're taking out this dragon. We're actually doing pretty well here. Unfortunately, I can't just fly back up to it because I'm above the line. We're not going to sneeze. We're not going to sneeze. There is something weird about live streaming, where live streaming does in fact cause you to use the Royal We for some reason, even in context where it doesn't make any sense. Is that a live streaming thing, or is that just something I've always done? That's actually a good question. I don't know. I'm also, do I use that Royal We in private, or do I just use it in, I got the para, or do I just use it while I'm live? I actually don't know.
Oh.
I notice it when I'm live, but I don't know if I do it the rest of the time. I don't think I do it the rest of the time. I've gotten in trouble with my usage of the generic you, the you to just describe a person generally, like oftentimes me. specifically, but also just like, oh yeah, to use you in place of a person, right? Oh, say for example, you da 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 da, right? And there's been a couple of times where I have made some certain arguments about, things one could do, and because I was using you as a the instead of saying like a person, I was using you as the like. What would this be? Like, I was using you as a third person instead of a second person pronoun, I guess is the best way to describe it, right? And using that has gotten me in trouble because people are like, you're calling me an idiot. I'm like, no, actually, this had nothing to do with you personally. This is just a hypothetical person. There's plenty of nice ways to say you in English. You can just say you. Or you could say y'all. I think people generally have favorable impressions of y'all. It's a nice casual form. Kind of folksy. Everybody's weak. Now, could I have cured my weakness before I attacked another dragon? Yes, but we don't need to, so we're not going to. Okay. Is it 3 o'clock already? I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Oops. We're probably going to end up with some fatigue deaths here, unfortunately. If we're already at the point of weakness, we're probably going to start running into the point of death pretty quick. Yeah, English used to have informal and formal forms for it. I know in Japanese, in Japanese there actually is no polite way to say you. It's not even just like a little bit like weird. It's like actively rude to talk to someone whose name you know and to use you instead of their name. Like if you're talking to a person and saying, oh, could you do this? You should say their name. Apparently. The reason that I say apparently is because this is something that I picked up culturally, not by being taught it by someone in the classic way, but in my host mother getting really fucking pissed off at me for continuously not referring to her by name. She got angry enough that I'm pretty sure it's a social faux pas to do so. Which makes sense if you've ever seen an anime and everyone's always saying each other's names at random intervals. It's because it's just there's a lot more situations where you say a person's name in Japanese than you do in English. It's fairly grammatically unusual in English to go like, can live forever never do this thing for me when you're talking to live forever never. Like, that's a weird way to describe, like, you know what I mean? Anyway, it's also possible that there was specific context to it that I don't understand because at the time I had very little understanding of what was happening around me in that household. So it's entirely possible that it was specific to like a particular social context, but I don't really know. It was a very unusual situation. I should have stated the norms because I didn't speak enough Japanese to be able to communicate clearly with my host family, and they the only people who in the house who spoke English weren't in the house. They were never in the house, so it was just me and the host mother who could not talk to each other at all. And we could say a few things, but it's very funny how like certain like you can like watch TV with a person, and you know you have like no fucking idea what the hell's happening, really. But they watch like a lot of game shows, and game shows are fairly easy to parse like what's happening, kind of. Even Japanese TV shows, which are admittedly very strange. I remember there was a show that I watched with her where it was people on like a fake roller coaster, and like really difficult kanji would come up on screen, and they were supposed to like identify what the kanji was, which is a really interesting like thing that you can have in Japan that you simply can't have very easily in like an English show, because the way that the language works, right? Like generally speaking, like you might mess up the pronunciation of a word in English, right? But like it would be really weird to like basically put a word on the screen and then have an entire game show for adults be to just read what it says out loud. That's not a hard show. Like that's a very, very simple thing. Like that is not the kind of thing that really makes much sense. But the thing with Japanese is that because you have I think the basic vocabulary is 20,000 kanji, so it's 20,000 distinct individual symbols to be considered like basically fluent. But then there's like 10 times that many, right? Like there's so many more individual symbols that could be memorized, and which you don't necessarily have to memorize all of them, because you might be able to figure out contextually what some of them mean by some of like the same way that like if you're thinking about like foreign words or like root words or things like that, when you're thinking about like, oh, well, what does this word mean? And you're not familiar with the word and you're looking at it. You can do the same thing with kanji, where you're looking at like the root components of it and saying, okay, well, this is the mixture of like a person and like a building. So it means something about like maybe like a profession, or maybe like, you know, something along those lines, right? Like you can kind of get an idea of what something means, but there's a lot of different ways to interpret it, and how best to identify it would be very tied to like an awareness culturally of where these kinds of like prefixes and suffixes, to bring it across to the English example, come from, right? Like if you hear a word and it has the word it has the prefix pre attached to it, right? You have an idea of what that means intrinsically. Anyway, so basically associating that concept over to like the actual written form of the words, instead of it just being like the sort of like the word itself. Anyway, it's a whole thing, but I think that. So anyway, so I would watch stuff like that with my host mother, which is comprehensible, and you know the two of us could basically go like, ooh, that's difficult, and I don't know if it's difficult or not. It's kanji. I never learned kanji, so I don't know the difference between hard kanji and easy kanji. But you know, she'll like look at the screen and go, "Ooh, Muzukashi," and I'll go, "Yeah, Muzukashi, definitely. That definitely looks really hard," which technically, I mean, is accurate because it's kanji in the first place. I'm very bad at rote memorization to the point where even after even after a very long period trying to learn hiragana and katakana, my katakana knowledge is basically non-existent, and my hiragana is and has always been rusty. My hiragana is about as good now as it was when I left Japan the first time, just because my hiragana. So basically, there's like 3 writing systems. I guess numbers are an entirely different writing system in theory. So for most words, there's like 3 basic writing systems in Japan. So you have hiragana, katakana, and kanji. So kanji is just like Chinese. And it's borrowed, so not all the things are probably going to be exactly the same, but generally speaking, if something's written in kanji, a Chinese person could just read it. I would because of the fact that, but like grammar, like particles and things like that are handled presumably in kanji, in Chinese. I actually don't remember what Chinese characters are even called in Chinese. It doesn't matter, but that stuff is handled with hiragana, right? So, and let's see here. So katakana isn't exclusively for other languages, and kanji is literally borrowed from Chinese. So, like, kanji is literally just Chinese. So that there's like the simplified format of the way that we often think of it doesn't really work out in practice. Hiragana is mostly and almost exclusively used for children and particles, right? So like it's mostly used in like any sort of like even semi-professional setting. I've only ever seen hiragana used as a subtitle underneath kanji or as a particle. So the particles describe which portion of the sentence is what. But all of like the verbs, the act, like all of the like the active things, the things that are happening in the sentence are usually written out in kanji. And katakana seems to be used for a mixture of foreign words, though not all foreign words, and as well, but it's like specifically, I think it's like specifically like Western foreign words, to be perfectly honest. Like you're not going to see like Chinese borrowed words in katakana. So, but it's also used for certain types of formal names that are specifically local and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of weird contexts where katakana is used, and I do not understand it. Like it's a large, basically the actual practical usage. Katakana is kind of all over the place. You see a pretty large amount of katakana because it's used for all sorts of stuff. It's used stylistically a lot. Like, I don't know if it's like associated with fancy shit or something like that, because imported stuff would be thing. But anyway, there's a lot of weirdness to it that makes me go, I don't know what katakana's whole deal is, but I know that it ain't just foreign words. But predominantly the sort of like baseline Japanese, if you ignore katakana, which you can't because there's so many contexts where katakana is the only thing that you can use. But if you ignore the katakana for a moment, the baseline way that I would describe the majority of like adult communication is kanji and hiragana, with the hiragana using only like 4 hiragana characters to act as particles, basically, and that's it. You just have the particles in hiragana. Everything else is kanji. So, and that's part of the reason why, if you can read Chinese, you can get by really well in Japan, because it's just like everything's the same, right? Like you can just read everything. And if you can't, you're in for some pain. But the funny thing is that like Chinese and Japanese are so different linguistically, like the way that you would speak, like phonetically, they're so different that there's like no core. Like there's this interesting element to Japanese where it's almost like if you took the audio components of pretty much English, if you just took the audio components of English and you combined them with the writing system of Chinese, and then just make random words using that, then you get that's pretty similar, because there's not really a lot of sounds that are not like directly overlapping between Japanese and English. Most of the sounds fully overlap, and the sounds that don't overlap are just not in Japanese. There's no Japanese sounds that you don't have in English, for instance. And there's very few sounds that you don't have in Japanese that you do have in English, but you do have a couple. You have a couple, but not very many. Like L and R are the same sound in Japanese. And depending on where you are regionally, you'll get a different pronunciation on it. But it's somewhere in between those two, or it's just an L, or it's just an R. Because regionally, one of the variants, like the variation is strong. It's a huge country. The variation is strong enough that some places it's basically just a hard R. Some places it's a hard L. I think that the the Tokyo pronunciation is pretty much in the middle somewhere, which is what people generally associate. But that's not like a universal pronunciation for Japanese. Hey, Malago. Yeah, I know very little outside of my, repeated excursions. I basically, the thing that I would say about Japanese is I know enough about Japanese to know that I don't know shit about Japanese. That's the way I would describe it. Is it's like, we have some ideas about Japanese, and I know that a lot of the things that we have as ideas about Japanese are overly simplified, right? Where it's like, this is not quite accurate, and that's my level of comprehension. It's like, katakana is more complicated than that. Can I explain further? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All I know is katakana is weird. I know that much. I really did expect that hiragana was going to be more useful when I went there 20 years ago. I was expecting that hiragana was going to actually be used by someone at some point. The only time that I saw any hiragana in use pretty much was when I bought a Japanese copy of Final Fantasy VI. And I was like, oh, great, there's an option to subtitle it with hiragana for the children. And I can kind of read it.
There's no room.
Life is good. Alright, we are... mostly successful here. Now that I have both Day of Protection and Shield up, the damage output is very manageable. My party's very strong now.
It might be useful.
Hey, look at that. We got an egg. Yes, this is the Dragon Cave for the Druid promotion.
Useless. Useless.
Why do we only have 58% complete? Is there more to this dungeon than I realized? Is there another pathway over here that I didn't notice? Is this dungeon more complicated than I thought? Like, is there a hidden area here? Are both the Dragon Caves the same dungeon? Because if both Dragon Caves are the same dungeon, I might be in trouble. Oh, shit. Okay. Well, we need to have... we're going to replay Emerald Island. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave. We haven't cleared 65%. We're going to have to re-clear this section of the dungeon. So what we're doing is we're setting a beacon here, and then we are going to go clear the other side, and then as long as I can beacon out while that side of the dungeon is like while we're in the green there, we should be okay. So that's what I'm going to try to do. This is way too many. I need to get out of this. It's in there. I say, and then I just come back and just start trying to brute force them again, which shockingly worked pretty well. Okay. Well, oh shit! I don't have fly active. Damn it. Oof. You don't technically need the jump spell, it's just a lot easier to fly down without touching the ground and deactivating flying.
There's no room.
Alright, we got a ring that I probably can't identify without equipping a shield.
Sorry.
Shield.
It's worthless.
Worthless is a bit of an overstatement. Right. So let's save it up. I guess we're not going to save it up. We need to clear these two. Unfortunately, they're above me and will probably stay above me. Not that far above me, but we're fine. Alright. So, we are a lot stronger than I expected at this point. I think that... Let's take a look at our damage during this place. We're at 48% from Ash. Korthal has actually surpassed Severia, which is kind of wild. It's really wild because I haven't upgraded Korthal's weapons at all. I'm not even like... oh god, yeah, there's all that percentage damage. So when I'm fighting these really, really high level enemies, that's probably doing quite a lot of work. Let's see here. We've got... In terms of durability, I think that we've started to come around the other end with that. I'm wondering if I was going to do a party like this again, if I would use a troll for the regen, or if I'd rather have... Right, one of the things I wanted to check is since I'm now in like the late game, see what percentage of the spells that I actually want to cast that I can cast. So, like, it would be nice to have Fate active if I get a crit damage legendary.
No space.
It'd also be nice for the people who are capped. Just generally.
I don't know. All repaired. Now this will do.
We can... let's go after you, actually. Okay. Just do a little bit of a hop. Clear this one out. And... I think the demons are going to be a bit more rough because there's just so many of them in one place, and they have Meteor Swarm. So my guess is that the demons are going to be pretty deadly. But we are definitely getting to the point where, like, Korthal isn't getting one-shot consistently anymore, even by the red dragons, I don't think. Now that we have the spell cast. Fuck. Fuck. It's fine. The dragons are level 291 for the blues. I'll actually dive this one. I don't think they're physically linked in interior. I think they are functionally two separate dungeons, but are on the same map. See. Going to plow over here. Plop over here. Alright. Let's save it up. And do I need to... I could just dive these. This is just like... just 3 dragons. No big. No big deal.
I can't identify.
Let's see.
It's worthless.
I just thought of a run that would be kind of funny. Which would be a run where you only wear legendary gear. You just refuse to equip. You just refuse to equip anything. Just completely refuse to equip anything that isn't legendary. I think that would be funny. Oh man. Alright. How's it going? How's it going, my dear friend Dragón? Okay. Okay. Take you out. Unfortunately, we're almost out of dragons. Have we found any legendaries? I don't remember if we found any on day 1. Okay, nailed it. Let's take a look. Anything? Nope. I guess we'll find out.
Jump.
We will find out. The incredibly sad gold piles. I guess I should take the ore, right? I'm not going to. Oh, no, now I have to, because if I
No room. I have too much.
disappear, I would have picked it up. I'll take the ore.
I have too much.
We can replace some mushrooms. It's fine. It's fine. I should do another one of those like mini inventory management streams. Or not streams, but like videos where I just record myself dropping every mushroom out of my inventory because I don't need them anymore. Oh, jeez. Hi. You know, let's try it. No shot. No shot. All right, we need to get out of here. All right, where are we going? Oh, it still says 58%. Interesting. So I guess it might like be okay where the enemies aren't respawning. But on the plus side, this means that this should be a preset pack now, because we have already been to this. Oh, right, the Mega Dragon's here. So you're level 305. You hit for about somewhere between... Silly fucking monster. Oh, man. Delightful. Alright. Oh, shit. Shit. Okay. Oh, there goes somebody. I need to either... Because I can invis in here, but if I invis in here, it'll be, I think, a little too easy to deal with, because then I could just put them in corners very trivially. So what I'd like to do is manipulate them into a position that I want without needing to invis first. The issue is that as they're dealing damage to me, if I'm not dealing damage back to them, I'm going to die very, very rapidly. Do I have anything I can do to enhance my ability to fight these straight up? Let's see. I could hypothetically do some business with you, but I don't think I really have the mana to do it for long. So, why do we have 240 skill points? Oh my god, I haven't spent everybody's skill points. Oops. Misclick. Alright, well, you know, Severia has 2 cover now. It's fine. I don't need to reload for that. I have enough for a sword or spear. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Now, what are you currently using? Are you using the Lifesteal one or Death Grasp? I'm just gonna dive straight into these and see what happens. Nothing fancy at all, just... The answer is a surprisingly slow death, actually. If I were to fixate my damage more efficiently, I'm actually going to do something a little bit different, but not that different. I'm going to invis in, and I'm going to attack the Mega Dragon to try to burn it down immediately. And if I can burn down the Mega Dragon, that would be really useful. But it doesn't look like that's going to work. I'm also going to take pot shots from the entrance over there. This might not be a feasible... I keep thinking that thing's too far away to actually do this. So if I can tag... Basically, if I could focus fire on a single target here, I think I might be able to realistically make this work. But I think I'm probably... There's not a lot of things I can do to make this different without using invis. So I think I'm going to try to just pop in here. And at the very least, isolate some of the damage out so that I'm not taking damage from every target all at once. But I don't really want to... I don't want to go too crazy with it and like prevent them from actually hitting me at all. That's not really my goal right now. Unfortunately... There we go. Oh, did we just paralyze the Mega Dragon? Alright, well. Sad day for you. Really more sad day for me, but oh shit, what happened? Oh, that's fine. It's fine. Was it great? I don't need to see what I'm looking at. Okay, we got our sandals.
There's no room.
That one got sandals, man.
No room.
No space.
Is this what these always look like? Holy shit. Okay. You already have a bunch of fire resist. I am going to have to think about how I want to handle this. I can't drop this effect. But these Hermes sandals are actually incredibly powerful.
Great.
Oh, right. There's enemies here. Let's see if we can just brute force these. Okay. Dungeon complete. Alright. Mission successful. The crafting diamond, grab this. Yes, I'm well above it now. I think I'm like I'm 282 now. So the thing though is that I didn't realize that the cap for other gear was going to also be around 250. So I was thinking that after we hit 250, the artifacts would start falling behind. But once you hit 250, the other stuff doesn't start scaling. It doesn't keep scaling either. So the artifacts actually aren't going to fall off hard after 250 because nothing else is really scaling that much past them either. So certain stuff like these sandals have over 500 stats on them. And then they also have 200 air resistance, right? Like this is a really, really, really high amount. So this item, for instance, isn't really that impressive. It's got some great durability on it, but
Carry anymore.
even that, it can't hold up to the just absurd amount that we get out of that. So this character needs to have either those or I can swap on. Oh, do you not even have that? You don't have that. Because the other person that I could put it on, I could put those on Ash. Because Ash has this resistance belt on. The issue is that Ash also has some fire resist gear. So Ash won't really benefit from it that much. I think for now, I'm going to put Hermes sandals onto Severia.
I can't carry anymore.
Because these are like truly excellent. That's an excellent item. And this is, good, but it's not as good as the Hermes sandals are. Hermes sandals just have way too much thing around them. So that's a pretty sizable DPS boost for her. Like just the speed boost is insane. Recovery time 66, so 74 to 66 from just one item. Not too bad. Alright. We finished the Dragon Caves, I believe. I think we might actually just be done with dragons, period. I might have actually cleared all the dragons out. Yeah, I think it also gives armor. I think the speed itself gives a bunch of armor. Oh my god. Oh, that's vitality. I was thinking that was... No, look at the armor class difference. 1550 to 2220. Jeez. It has base AC as well, right? Like it has 64 base. Like that is a really fucking good item. That's actually really, really good. It's almost like it drops off of like the Ultra Boss that's like the hardest enemy in the game. So are we done with the dragons? It's okay. It's not bad. It's a little bit of news, but all right. It's just, yeah.
Ooh,
It's not bad.
right.
Okay.
Worthy.
This has plus 47 to all stats on it. That's probably worth it for somebody who has garbage. God, I'm so excited to get an immunity item on you. It's going to be so great. The status immunity items are going to be so clutch. Like, getting a legendary that does that for me is going to save up multiple gear slots for Ashcore. Like, we have 2 pieces of gear right now that just give us nothing except immunity to eradication and immunity to unconsciousness. So, like, the amount of extra throughput we can get out of Ashcore, who, you know, is definitely struggling. You know, Ash definitely needs the help. Just doesn't have the kind of oomph I would expect. I'm gonna try to just dive these, just because we're going to be substantially stronger than we were the last time that we fought the Titans. Just because of the fact that we have, when we were fighting Titans earlier, we didn't have Day of Protection active. So if we can just take you out.
Now this will do.
Double mind resistance, very exciting. It's not a good idea to just dive them. Ooh, Philosopher's Stone. Recast fly, instantly get knocked back down. It's all fine. It's all fine. I'm losing fly because my fly caster is going unconscious. When they first made the buff changes, fly would go down when you were unconscious and then come back up again the way that the other buffs do. But then they changed that back to vanilla behavior at some point, like fairly quickly afterward. Yep. That's the life my characters lead. Except for Silria. Silria now does not get knocked down and then get back up again. Because if Silria gets knocked down, then we almost certainly have a death because the preservation goes down. It's a catchy song.
Oh.
I'm just remembering the I threw it on the ground thing, which is a legitimately funny video. One of the things that's very interesting. That's like almost identical
There's no room.
to the one that I have already, right?
Won't fit. I have too much.
Is that not like basically the same sword? Oh, actually, I should check this. Okay, we still have a recovery time of 29, so whatever was going on with our weapon is still going on with our weapon. Okay. Yeah, this is going fairly well. And by fairly well, I mean actually this is going extremely well. This is going way better than I would have expected before I got here. Like, obviously, these are enemies that normally I would not be just brute forcing like this. Normally, I would be dodging their attacks. And I don't actually have the need to right now. We've gotten so strong off the back of Silria's just absurd amount of durability to keep that preservation up, that we can pretty comfortably fight a couple of them. Can we fight 30 of them like we have over in that pack? Absolutely not, no. But yeah, the Krigan will be interesting to see because they are going to use Meteor Swarm. But the other thing is that Meteor Swarm is going to be a lot less dangerous in some ways because Kortal is like specifically strong against multi-hit effects. So at the very least, the person who's using Fly is going to be less vulnerable to it. I've also noticed that the Sparks spells that these Titans use feel weaker proportionately to the things. No character that I have in my party that has mana is not immune to all status effects, including Mana Drain. It wouldn't make that huge of a difference anyway, because I'm basically sitting on very close to 0 mana at all times, and I'm just regenerating fast enough to make up for it. It could hypothetically cause a problem. The issue is with leechers, because leechers keep you permanently drained. Because like once a leeching enemy drops you down low enough to not be able to cast a spell, you can't cast that spell until you get away from the leecher, right? You won't get that mana back. Kortal's just really squishy compared to everybody else. Kortal just is having a bit of a rough time. We've got 2 defensive item slots that are not actually, in use. We're dual wielding axes when we could have a shield equipped, which would help a lot with our durability. It's actually tempting
There's no room.
to... I guess I don't even need to spec into it necessarily, because it probably wouldn't be that valuable without specking into it, but we could find out. So if I were to just use this, my DPS is basically halved, right? So we would be dropping the party's DPS by not like a ton, but by a fairly significant margin if we did that. But we would have the ability... We have actually 3 legendary shields. This would probably be counterproductive to use, because I might not be able to actually cast my shared life if I did this. I could check. But let's see how big of a jump this would... Where'd it go? It's in your inventory somewhere. If I were to equip this, that gives us like a 30% vitality jump, which is pretty big. Pretty big. So I could do that, and it's actually tempting to just do it because it...
There's no room.
Let's try it out. It's not like we've invested heavily into the axe skill. And if we do this, we can get I can't cast a spell with this equipped. So
It won't fit.
This is good.
sorry, I got distracted by the fact that my wife's done work home in the other room. I forgot what I was doing. It's like you hear words that you can barely hear, and you're like, what's happening? Something important? It's like, yes, something important, but not important to you. Not important, but not relevant. Alright, what was I doing? Oh, right, I was going to look for the other shield. Let's see. Can I even cast it right now? Yes. So... here's the other one. So the other one gives personality and endurance, and this is a way weaker item, I think. Yeah, this is a way better item. It wouldn't be worth it to equip the other one, I don't think. It would be if I improved it. Because yeah, the issue that I have right now is that Cortol is so squishy. I guess we could play with that if we wanted to. So, do we want to actually focus the party in on stuff? Because at the very least, we do have the... this gives... Divine Protection. Do I have Divine Protection on you? I don't have Divine Protection on you. And that's a very powerful effect for you, considering how often you die. Personality is not a stat that you need, because it takes the higher of the two. So I would need to purge off the personality to make that work. But it has endurance plus all stats. I'm not gonna lie, it is tempting. This gives plus 19 shield skill?
It won't fit.
There's no space.
How good would this be for your durability, actually? This would actually increase your durability, because the plus 19 shield skill with 150 armor is quite significant. It's not that crazy, though. Like, the armor on it isn't that high. It's actually got lower armor than this one does, so it's probably not going to be worth it. If I had GM Shield, it might be worth it. But even if I had GM Shield, I'd still be dealing... This is a multiplier on the value, so it probably would be regardless. Let's see. If I were to give you this... If I were to give this to you... It would be a 32% power increase. Reduces... or vitality increase, rather. Reduces body and mind resistance, which isn't great. But in conjunction, I feel like this could actually be a useful item. 19 shield skill is a lot of shield. I'm not gonna worry about it right now. We have a lot of Titans to burn through, and they do use mind magic, so it's not necessarily a great idea to invest heavily into that. I don't know, though. You know, I feel like we've gotten our leather skill to... I think we are going to make that swap. I don't know if we're going to do it now or if we're going to wait. I think we might wait until we can get expert. Basically until we can go like level up a little bit, just to get a good amount of skill in play. Got some plate armor. It's a good sign. One of the many types of plate armor that is in the game, I believe, is loaded up with a legendary. I'd be very curious to figure out how the actual like drop rate of stuff works. The really funny thing is that I'm going to equip the shield on Kortal after the point where it's no longer like really that necessary if I wait until after this place to do it. So, how many skill points do I have? I have 15. A few points in this is actually very valuable right off the bat. Do I want to do it? I think I might. I think I might do it. Yeah, I think I'm going to. If I find another legendary two-handed axe, it'll be very sad. But, I think that that's what we're going to do. So Kortal is going to
It might be useful.
swap from this setup
I have too
to
much.
a shield.
I have too
Ooh.
much.
Oh, right, the plate.
I don't know.
Ooh.
Yes.
Garbage. So this is the one that we would be working with. Do we want to invest all of these resources into making this work? Yeah, I think so. Though, again, it's not... We've gotten this far with Kortal being this squishy. But no, I want to do it just because I want to see how I feel about like a full sword and board setup for a shaman. What are the weapon skills that you have? You have mace, spear, staff. I feel like your recovery time is pretty slow. It'd be pretty funny to do unarmed, but we can't use GM staff. Let's see here. Do we have a thing we can... I guess we don't. It doesn't matter. So we could technically use spear. Spear might be fun just because it gives us the AC. If we wanted to go full durability on that character. We wouldn't need to do it for this playthrough because we're using a two-handed weapon in one hand. We don't need... like, as a Minotaur, it's not worth it to do that, I don't think. But if we were going to... do another character, I feel like a spear might make sense. As an option. Alright, so we need to re-roll, not this one, but this one. So let's put this in here. And where is our thing? Inventory management stream begins right now. Let's go. Let's see. So we're looking for an orb. How many do we have? Do we only have one lying around somewhere? Or do we have none left? I don't think we have none left. I don't think I would have run myself out, but... Did I literally run myself out of these? Okay, we might not have a pearl. If we don't have a pearl, then there's not a lot I can do. Actually, to make the shield setup work super great. It would be a, like, just equipping this on its own is a 22% durability increase. But this might be a thing that we have to do later rather than doing it now. So wait, 180 isn't the cap. The cap is 225. Whoops. Okay. Are we going to keep the endurance? Yeah, I think we're keeping the endurance. We're just going to go pure endurance. And that is good. You know, the other thing that might be fun, this is something that I should consider at some point. If I, you know, this might end up just being like a Maw live stream until the end of time at this point. I think that it would be kind of interesting to try out a just pure mitigation build where, like, I don't even stack endurance, right? Like, I have a pretty good amount of endurance on Celeria right now. It might be kind of fun to just, like, rely on my buffs and things like that to get endurance, buffs and the of Doom effect. And I don't think I didn't hit anybody with that, so we don't need to reload.
Ow.
We didn't get the shoot message. We're fine. Oh, shit. It's really nice that we can just jump down into the pit. And then basically there's very few enemies that can actually hit us from there. Okay. Because even when they're in the pit, they get their line of sight blocked off by the pit. Because it's got uneven walls. There's a bunch of corners. Yeah, I think that if I were to try to optimize how I want to set up my gearing and all that kind of stuff, I feel like what I would probably do is pick a couple of pieces of gear that are going to be like my best in slot gear, and I think I would probably put maybe pure speed on them. I might just use pure speed, because speed seems like a really potent status, or not status, a really powerful stat. That scales well into the later stuff, because the AC that comes with it is very nice to have. And I've been in part building my characters around the eventual acquisition of like particular items. So like the idea of like, okay, well, I'm going to fill up certain slots over time with the status effect immunity items and things like that. And I think what I would probably want to do eventually is settle on like which effects, basically once I get an effect that I know is going to be like best in slot for a character, to basically just max that one item out, and make sure that I adjust its properties to match what I need them to be. Because the low-level items are weirdly going to be a lot easier to make perfect than high-level items. High-level items don't have a ton of room for growth, which means that you don't have the ability to manipulate their stats as much. So like the first couple of pearls that I obtain are likely going to be really important, and I'm going to want to basically like figure out exactly what stats I want to focus on like which item. Because like, this is accuracy and luck, and I have too much luck on this character built in as a result of that to a large degree. Now, is it possible that I get an item that allows me to get like a really big crit damage modifier off of that? Sure. But I think that generally accuracy is probably not as strong an affix for me as getting either might, which is it's a critically important stat to have. So like as an example, yeah, I think that what I would want to do most likely is, if I have like a weapon, try to get the weapon to have double might, if possible. Just because it is a weapon and it will secure my... It secures the DPS on its own at that point. Because the other effects are great, but as we've seen with Severia, like the might at impact is really critical. It's very important to keep your might up to snuff, because that's the base damage that everything's... Well, it's not the base damage, but it's one of the multipliers that everything else is multiplying off of. Accuracy becomes more important eventually than it does early, because early on accuracy doesn't do that much because your crit chance isn't that high. But I feel like I would definitely not ever regret having 720 might on a weapon. Is it 3 o'clock? We just hit another 3 o'clock, and nobody died, so that's good. We will cure weakness on, frankly, the only person that it matters that much on. Alright, save it up. Let's take a look here. I am actually curious about how far behind Severia's damage is right now. I do feel like the two-handed axes fall behind over time. So I actually do feel like, given the amount of durability advantages that a Death Knight has, they have a lot of really good mitigation tools. I think a Minotaur Death Knight makes a lot of sense. I think that a Minotaur Death Knight is a pretty good pickup. You're dual wielding Grandmaster axe, and I think that that's a good pickup. The dual wielding two-handers definitely does seem very strong. You can see when I swap to a shield and it just like halves Kortal's damage, that dual wielding the two-handers is a very, very powerful effect. And if we could do that with Severia, I feel like that would give her a lot of stuff. Though obviously it wouldn't be Severia. Let's see. If I was going to do that, Kortal doesn't really match the type that well, though Kortal isn't actually a spellcaster at all. So it actually, weirdly enough, the Death Knight with Kortal makes more sense than Shaman with Kortal. Kortal is just a straight up fighter. I was going to say canonically. Does it count as canon if I haven't published anything with Kortal in it yet? Yes, it does, because the canon is in my head. It's also on paper, actually, because I do have Kortal written. I have scenes with Kortal written for the next book from so many years ago that I still haven't finished. I've gone back to it a couple of times to try to work on it, and I'm just not sure if this is a bad idea. I should save. So the other thing is that these will use exclusively fire damage. So one curiosity here is, if these are going to use exclusively fire damage, does it make sense to have Day of Protection active when I could have protection from fire? The other question is, can I have protection from fire? What did you maintain? You're maintaining shield, which is 18%. You're not maintaining that. You're not maintaining that. You're maintaining what? Heroism? You're maintaining bless. What are you maintaining? Shield. I think haste and heroism are both 30%, so that's probably just haste, heroism. We can't cast Hour of Power. We can cast both of these, but only if we eliminate our ability to cast any spells, which we're definitely not going to do. That might be a fun thing to play with at some point in the future, but we don't need to do that right now. I'm actually going to save, because I don't remember if I actually did this. I'm actually going to dive these, and I'm just going to sit on them and see what happens. My guess is I'm going to die pretty much instantly, but okay, we are taking way too much damage to sit on these. Okay, even got hit by the... there we go. So that gives an idea of how much damage we're going to take from that, which is, say, not really a lot. And unfortunately, they're not flyers, so I can't, like, I can't just fly up in the air and ignore the meteor swarms because they don't fly, so they're not going to like fly after me. We basically are going to need to pull smaller groups of these. Is that a swift one? Oh wait, do we have a boss in this pack? No, this is just a normal double skeleton. Okay, you have a... Let's see. So this does 70,000 damage to Cortal. Yeah, that's an issue. Yeah, Cortal's going to be very vulnerable to physical. I feel like if I had to guess, this is my this is just the framework that I'm thinking through. The weak point that Minotaurs have more than anything else is they lose access to multiple slots that have base AC, and I think those base AC slots are multiplied by the armor value. So Minotaurs are going to have a huge, just massive glaring weakness to physical damage dealers that is very hard to make up for. And it's because, like, I don't think... Let's take a look at her. Yeah, like, I have so much more armor class on Korgrik. And not quite 10% of it is coming from my boots. And I could have way more if I were to upgrade this hat. So I feel like one thing that might be very beneficial for using a Minotaur is to make sure that it's a plate user, because a plate user is going to have enough of a sort of like mitigation lead on physical damage that they're not going to be like a liability to the party whenever physical damage comes into play. Because like that was a physical hit, right? It might not have been a physical hit actually, but I think it was probably a physical hit. And you get knocked so far in the negative by the late game hits. Oh wait, yeah, that was definitely a physical attack. So we just took a massive melee swing, I think. Unless that was mostly just the fire damage just now, but who knows. I don't think so. I would be surprised if I was taking that much damage from the... Oh, the Devil Warriors are the ones that use the Meteor Swarm. Oh! I forgot it was the mid-tiers. So these are the more dangerous enemies, technically. At least in vanilla. Also in this. The Meteor Swarm is a very big deal. So... yeah, fighting off these Kriegan is going to be an expedition. Did I do this? Yes. Yeah, I think that a Minotaur Death Knight would be a very fun thing to try out. And I'm almost certainly going to try out a Minotaur Death Knight at some point in the near future. And I can say in the near future because I'm actually pretty close to finished with this run. And I don't think I'm necessarily going to do like a long-form caster run where I do the entire game as a caster party. I might, but if I do, I'm not going to do it, like, all in one shot like this, most likely. Unless it's way easier, which it might end up being. Being able to use, like, indirect fire and shit like that is, like, so powerful. I'm not sure. I need to go save. Why am I approaching enemies while I'm at half life and I haven't saved? Let's save this so that we don't have to do it over and over again. Ouch. Just get double meteor swarmed. This is fine. So, okay, let's try this again. We have at least 3 of these here, I think. Oh, there's one of those hits. You also have Meteor Shower, okay. It's Incinerate and Meteor Shower versus, goddammit, versus Fireball and Meteor Shower. So the second and third tier devils both have access to this. Luckily I can outrun it. Like if I'm just running straight away. Jeez. The sheer volume of damage. Do I have to wait until everybody up has... Oh god. I have to wait until the people up have more than the people down in general, not just... Oh god. The person with regen is down. Oh no! We don't have any regen out. Oh boy. That's not a big heal. Ooh boy. Ooh boy. So now we can do that, which gets us to the point where we actually have regen on everybody again. So we're going to start making progress now. Oh, there's more than one on me? Shit. We're probably bound here. Okay, that one's dead. Okay, we'll do it. We don't have anybody damage out. I believe in you, Silria. I think that Silria is durable enough, actually, that if Silria was a knight, dealing, like, somewhat mediocre DPS, she'd actually be able to keep herself alive. The one thing that I have to be mindful of in the party creation is that I definitely want to have at least one person who's a Grandmaster Shield. I probably don't want 2 because I just don't think there's too much reason to, like, I don't know that there's that much there's not that many classes that have GM Shield, you know? And Knights, I think, can GM Shield, but I wouldn't really want to use a Knight to do GM Shield. Like, I don't have a lot of interest in a cover-based party, for instance. That's not my jam. So, oops. I could try doing a weirdly. I could try doing a cover strat with my caster party. That might be fun. Having a character with like Grandmaster Monoshield that stacks mitigation and cover would be very funny. I don't know if there's anyone who can Grandmaster Monoshield and cover. There probably isn't, but that would be a very, very fun like thing to do. With like a magic specialization party. Fuck, we need to get out of here. We can get hit by the meteors. Blah. Let's see. There's so many of these things. Is there a place... If I were to fight you... Can I just walk into one of these holes? I don't think so. I certainly can't if they just knock me out of the sky. If I could walk into one of the holes and just bring them to me in a hole, I don't think it would work, but it might protect me from the thinger. It's just that it would involve aggroing so many of these that I don't think it'll work anyway. Oh, I don't think I could go in there. I could have misjudged the thing, but I think that I was at a position where I should have been able to get in if it was accessible. I don't think I can walk into that. Because what I'm looking for right now, fundamentally, is just cover so that the meteor swarms aren't a problem. But I don't think there is any in this. I mean, there's a little bit. Whoops, that was a mistake. Just flew straight into the entire swarm. Let's save this. I've picked up a Philosopher's Stone that I might need. Yeah, it does seem like the meteor swarms have maintained their deadliness. I was thinking that they might run into the problem that the spark spell runs into, which I think is a merge mod thing. I think it has to do with the way that it scales up. Though it might also in part just be that the sparks is mostly terrifying because, like, it gives multiple incidences of instant death effect applied simultaneously. So it can very quickly, like, you can wipe out the entire party with one sparks cast, basically. Fuck.
I'll save us.
I don't think you will, actually. Oh, to answer the question from before, yeah, Leechers have always drained mana, as far as I know. Like, they have since the start of my playthrough, at least. Leechers drain mana and HP. Okay. So we need to pull back. You know, so much for Cortal being strong against swarm spells like this, right? I could hypothetically... go pretty hard on Cortal's durability to help me survive this. Okay. Let's save it up. We're gonna go back over here. We have... Fuck. I was hovering above the death. I was hovering above the death. And then I got shot out of the sky, and then the death hit right after. It was, Lord, that is negative 100,000. Negative 100,000 HP. Okay. Cortal's gonna be a problem. At some point, this is gonna hit me with a meteor swarm and put me even deeper in the red. Or not. Okay, we now have 4 HP bars to play with. There we go. Oof. It took a while, but we got there. Yeah, do we want to... Yeah, I think that we need to do something about Cortal's durability. Cortal has way too little resistance. So, if I could just equip this straight up. Or I could equip this straight up and not worry about casting spells. I don't usually cast Shared Life with this character anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and just equip this for now. Because I can always unequip it if I absolutely need to cast Shared Life. So this will hopefully help me mitigate some of the damage. It would be so nice to be able to see a global breakdown of the healing. It would be very, very nice to be able to see that. I'm very curious about the way that certain effects are interact. You know.
I'll save us.
Will you?
I'll save us.
You might, but I don't. 33. Yeah, this is probably fine. I guess we... Oh, shit, we need to pick up Severia. Because Severia is not even regenerating right now. It's so funny how weak her heal is. God damn it. You know what? Fuck it. We're diving. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I definitely would like to see a healing breakdown as well. So rough. It is also funny because I feel like the thing that necessitates the like development of a build specifically for it is these devils. weirdly. Like, because of how, like, specifically powerful their particular... Because there's actually 2 types that can cast those things. Like... Yeah, that would be very useful information to have. Fuck. Fuck. I'm just gonna dive this one.
We got it.
Let's toast. Yeah, they're so strong that they warrant like a build for them, and they're also very specialized. So like if you're dealing with like the dragons deal like 3, or if you're talking about the fight with the Mega Dragon, 4 damage types, which is a very big spread, right? Like you could focus on them by getting like a bunch of elemental resist, to be sure, but generally speaking, like they're not something that you can prepare for just by like prepping up like a specific build. Whereas these, they do have physical damage, ostensibly anyway, but the bulk of what they're doing to you is hitting you with meteor swarms and instantly wiping out the party. Right? Like, that's the bulk of what the threat is with these, is them casting meteor swarm. So, which is also funny because it means that once you get into the actual dungeon itself, the dungeon itself is going to be easy. Clearing these is hard. Clearing the dungeon, trivial, because they can't use Meteor Swarm in the dungeon. Which I think is a very funny component to the Devils. I was hoping that I was high enough in the air to not have that happen, but I was not. How low is... Oh, right. Without Severia up, I don't regenerate at all. Severia technically regenerates, but realistically does not. And while I'm doing this, I'm not actually, like, making any progress. You know what's something that I think would be nice? Actually? Which I think is just an objective, like, upgrade for the calculations for the healing effects that target the lowest HP target. I actually think that adding an absolute value to that would make an immense upgrade to the usability of those kinds of effects. Once characters start going unconscious, the Seraph healing becomes kind of pointless. Like, it doesn't do much, because you're going to target the character who's so unconscious that they're never coming up during this fight. So that healing kind of just falls out of play entirely. if you use the lowest absolute value, you're basically picking whatever character is closest to 0 hit points. Which means that you're going to be picking up characters that are unconscious as quickly as possible. You're going to be healing the person who's low instead of healing the person who's very, very unconscious, right? There's going to be a lot more utility, I would think, out of using the absolute value in that figure rather than using the base number. Because I do find that there's a lot of cases where those kinds of healing effects functionally just kind of don't have any impact on combat, because as soon as characters start going below 0, the calculation gets very wonky. Like once characters are below 0, healing them doesn't, instead of having like a bigger effect, like healing someone gets more and more potent the lower their HP is, right up until they cross the threshold of 0. And then once they've crossed the threshold of 0, it goes in reverse, where like the lower they are, the less use there is in healing them, because they're so far down that like, who gives a shit, right? It doesn't actually heal them. It doesn't help them survive. In the same way that if somebody's at 80% life, and the enemies are hitting for 10% of your max life, and you heal the target who's at 80%, it's like, okay, well, that was kind of a waste of a turn, right? And so in a similar vein, if you're at negative 80% and you're healing for 10% of someone's max life, you're basically just throwing out that healing if it's going into that character who's really low. So I think an absolute value would work better there. There's contexts in which an absolute value wouldn't be the optimal choice. Like, I can certainly think of situations where the person who's closest to 0 is not necessarily the optimal healing target. Like, as an example, if somebody is below 0, but not by too much for you to heal them past 0, and there's another person who's conscious who you're healing instead because they have a lower absolute value. So like there are some edge cases where you're healing one person that there's pretty strong utility in healing instead of another character who there's a little bit more utility in healing. And you could try to make the logic of the ability account for that, right? But I don't think that there's much reason to do that. I think that you can do it without needing to... I don't think you need complicated logic for it. I think that just the absolute value in and of itself covers the majority of the edge cases where you're dealing with... There's someone that you would love to heal, and you simply cannot. You can't heal someone it would be very good to heal. And instead you're healing someone where the healing just goes fully to waste, where it's like, this doesn't impact the fight. Let's see. It would also make squishier characters at least a little bit less of a liability, because the amount that Kortal's squishiness is a liability is way larger than it looks. Because once Kortal has gotten down to negative 100,000 HP and is just fully out of the fight forever, and I'm just going to have to wait outside of combat for, a couple minutes to have everybody like regenerate enough to get Kortal back, or just in combat, whichever, right? But like, it's going to take a long time to get Kortal back in the fight. If somebody else also goes down, and they're just barely down, The fact that Kortal is down means that a lot of my healing is going to target a character that I can't do anything with, right? Like the other thing is shared life, right? So because of the way that the shared life logic works, if Kortal goes down by 100k and Severia is down by 2k, I can't use shared life to pick up just Severia, but not Kortal, right? And again, this is not something that I don't think that logic needs to be fixed. I think that it's enough of an improvement that shared life can't just kill you anymore. That I don't want to like be greedy about like how the shared life logic works. That doesn't need to be changed. But what it does mean is that again you have the character who is squishy, not only making themselves squishy, but they're making the entire party squishy, because once they go down by a lot, they don't just require a lot of healing to bring back into the picture. They also deny healing to the other characters in the party. Like a bunch of your healing spells just simply will not work. Like Korgrik's regeneration comes offline once Kortal has negative 100,000 HP, right? So there's a lot of factors that play into making like one vulnerable character be way more of a liability than you'd expect, like to a very, very large degree. Because having a vulnerable character is always a liability, but with the particulars of the way that the healing options work, it makes that vulnerable character substantially more of a liability than they otherwise would be. Okay, I'm just gonna fly away. I'm actually surprised that Kortal is as squishy as he is, because I feel like he has a very, very large amount of like air, which should give a pretty massive percentage reduction to damage. So I'm kind of surprised that we have the thing. But I guess it just comes down to like, what does a massive amount of mitigation mean on Doom, right? Like on Doom, 60% mitigation is not actually a lot of mitigation. 60% mitigation is nothing, because if you want to be surviving the hits, you need to have at least 90% mitigation, right? So like the difference between let's see here. What is air giving me? So air is giving me... It's actually only giving me like 39.5% damage reduction. And 39.5% damage reduction, that's, that's great. But, it's not 97% fire resistance. So, how much does water reduce by? Water reduces damage by 636. So... You can in theory get, and this is the other thing that I think makes me want to see what like a more like tanky shaman might look like, is just the fact that like, if I could get a shaman with, a decent amount of like air magic, but also like a pretty strong mitigation build, I think that it might be interesting to see how big of a difference it is. Shamans can master spear, yeah. So that's 3 AC per point. It might depend. You're not really going to be investing heavily in the weapon skill, most likely, because it's just not good value for skill points. So you're not going to get a huge amount out of the actual weapon skill, regardless. So it might just come down to what you like base recovery values and things like that, which but even then that doesn't, because of the fact that that's all multiplied out against the effects, I don't think that makes that big of a difference. Yeah, the way that I would probably build a shaman in like another playthrough would be to probably keep the magic skills equal to the armor skills, both shield and leather. Does it make sense to try chain? It does not. No, there's no reason to do chain on a shaman. I don't think. But I think that doing that would help a lot. And the gearing, I think that I would focus the gearing heavily onto durability. Because I feel like the damage output that Cortal has is not super gear dependent, honestly. Like, Cortal doesn't have very high might. Like, Cortal's stats are pretty mediocre. I think that I would probably go with putting the resistance item onto them and making sure that everything is of doom and focus on I might actually fully ignore endurance and go with speed and resists. Like in like an optimal world, I would actually ignore endurance on a character that has the ability to stack so many mitigation effects with a static value that's like the floor value where you take 0 damage. The goal would be to get the hits down as close to that floor as possible to make the most of the water magic. I think that would be probably the play. Because having more endurance is useful, but that's also just HP that you need to heal, right? Like, if the goal is to make the character survive, right? Like survive a given amount of time, like a given period of time, then endurance is very useful for that. But if the goal is to minimize the sort of like healing output the party has to invest into them, you don't really care that much about your actual hit points. You care more about your mitigation. And I think that that's what I would probably focus on for a character that is uniquely suited to stockpiling mitigation effects, where the mitigation is not just giving you the value that it's giving you. There's a multiplicative effect on it by the water effect, right? Where like if you can get the total damage dropped by an additional 10%, say, right? Like, let's say you can get a little bit more mitigation that gives you 10% reduction in the base damage that the attack does. For everyone else that doesn't have a static modifier, that can reduce the damage incoming by 10%. Reducing the damage by 10% base on a character with that static floor can reduce it by 100% if you reduce the damage under the floor, right? So I would probably want to play more with that if I was going to do this again. It should have occurred to me that mitigation was going to be as big of an issue as it has been in the later portions of this run. In my defense, there was a portion of the run where my damage was so bad that I simply could not outdamage regenerating enemies that couldn't fight back. I couldn't pierce through their regeneration. I had to wait for their regeneration to weaken to the point that I could hurt them. That's how bad my damage output was for a while. So I was much more focused on getting myself to be able to actually deal damage for a good portion of the run, which influenced the way that I, did everything in the mid game. And I kept expecting to run into that problem again as I got further into the game, and I never came across that problem ever again. I came onto the problem of getting hit for 3 times my maximum hit points by enemies, but I never got to the point where the enemies were tanky again. The enemies have been squishy and very fast to burn down since midway through the second continent, I think. So I never ended up having to deal with that. So anyway, I think that if I was going to try to optimize things as much as possible, I would want to you still need mitigation on everybody. I think one thing that I might do if I was gonna do it all again, which I'm probably going to, honestly. One of the things about this is that I enjoy going into games blind, which I'm doing more so than most with this one because of the fact that the mechanics that exist at the beginning of the run are different by the end of the run. Because it's a living work. It's a work in progress, right? This isn't a finished product. This is an in development game, and so I like going into things blind. But the issue with going into things blind is that I can get the excitement of coming up with the ideas that I want to play with in future runs and stuff like that, but I don't have that expertise when I'm actually doing the run, right? So since I don't have that expertise during the run, we don't get the okay, this is me playing with a degree, with real serious optimization in mind, right? The thing that I was doing more than anything else was trying to figure out, can I build a party where everyone is dealing damage, everyone is contributing, everyone is tanky, everyone survives, while simultaneously doing damage, right? That was kind of the goal. And the answer is probably not by the end game, because the classes that are better at dealing damage are going to start pulling massively ahead, and the specialization is going to be important, right? As an example, just looking at Sylria, I don't know what I would do with Sylria's build to get her to compete with Ashcore. On even vaguely similar levels, right? Ashcore is just way too out of control. Particularly, Ashcore has a plus 30 Arms Master item, right? Like, good fucking luck. That's 60 recovery. 60 recovery, like what? Like a friggin' 90 or no? It's like 100. Yeah, it's like 120 damage. Like crazy powerful item. Very cool artifact. Really like it. So the other thing is that knowing that, like, okay, so this artifact I'm probably going to be able to get during the run. Like, knowing that the legendaries I can't necessarily rely on getting during the run. The artifacts, I can probably rely on getting an artifact during the run. At some point, I'm going to get this artifact that allows me to do this thing that I want to do, right? When I get it is up in the air. How long it takes to get it, how long it takes to finish that build is up in the air. But, like, I'm not guaranteed to get a full set of items that give me resist boosts. But I'm pretty much guaranteed to get, you know, my Arms Master gloves. Unless the artifact limit is in the game. In which case, I don't think it is, though. I don't think the artifact limit, which was a very silly thing to begin with. Like, I don't know why they implemented that. That was a silly idea. For people who don't know, in the original Might and Magic 6, there were more artifacts in the game than you could actually find in any given playthrough. There was like a limit to how many total artifacts you could find. So, in addition to the artifacts only dropping one copy of each outside of specific circumstances where they're guaranteed drops, there was a limit on how the total number you could get. And the total number you could get was also outside of the specific cases of the things that were guaranteed drops. The guaranteed drops were still guaranteed. But I think they also counted toward the total. So, like, if you got Mordred early in the game, it would count toward your artifact limit for the run. But would but if you got it after you had reached your artifact limit, you could still get it, right? So, like, there's some weird, like, optimization shit with that. Though artifacts generally weren't good enough to justify. You wouldn't need that many anyway. They'd just be, you know, taking up inventory space. There were not that many good ones. But the other issue with that is that because the artifacts were mostly kind of garbage, that might be a stretch. The artifacts were, generally speaking, not, like, amazing. They weren't usually going to be, like, your best in slot item. Like, weapons obviously weren't going to be best in slot because they weren't of darkness. So, like, I think Hades was lifesteal. I think Hades might have been lifesteal, so it was pretty good. But, like, a generic lifesteal weapon was better than almost any artifact in the game. Like, a life-stealing club would be better than most weapons in the game, if not for the fact that clubs don't have a skill associated with them. Yeah, I know that Hades had negative regen. Didn't it also have lifesteal? No, I guess it didn't. It just had the degen effect. I was thinking of something, but I don't know what effect I'm thinking of. There's some thing that I think had lifesteal that I think was a sword. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Because I don't remember which one it would have been. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, right. Lord Mordred itself, yeah. which yeah, Mordred I think is the best in slot dagger. Pretty much. You could technically get a dagger of darkness, but even then, I think you could probably reach the recovery cap with just Mordred on its own. So I don't think that you need of Darkness. So Mordred would probably still. I think Mordred has the highest damage of any dagger in the game. So I think that Mordred would just be best in slot in the ultra late game. I believe before the Greyface patch, I think before Greyface, I don't remember if you could stack of Darkness. I'm trying to think about it. I think that the dagger didn't matter. So I think that an offhand Mordred and an Axe of Darkness would allow you at 60 skill to still reach the speed cap. But like, so in 6, generally speaking, dual wield was completely useless because it added the 2 recovery values together. So you basically would always be just better off just using the one weapon, unless you're like lancing in and out or something like that in a very specific way where you have unlimited time to play with. But like in terms of pure DPS, you're better off just using one axe than putting a crappy, dagger in your offhand or whatever, right? So generally speaking, that was the case. If you got to extreme levels, you could eventually reach a point where you could basically do enough damage to you could stack enough recovery to still reach close to or to the recovery cap, even though you were dual wielding a dagger. I don't think there was a way to make a sword viable. An offhand sword I don't think could ever be made viable in vanilla, because the 90 recovery that it adds is just too much to make up for by any means. So you're basically looking at 180 recovery to get rid of, and most of your recovery bonuses are like preset values, and the last 30 points of recovery double your damage, right? So like the first 30 points of recovery do nothing, right? It's like a tiny difference. Then you get to like from 60 to 30 and your damage doubles, like your DPS doubles. So because of the nature of the way that it worked, there was just no real way to make it work. So Greyface fixed that by making Might and Magic 6 mostly follow the rules of Might and Magic 7, which had a dual wield mechanism that actually worked and was viable. And though, funnily enough, Might and Magic 7 dual wield probably would have still been viable even if you didn't do that for knights, because a knight would have access to Arms Master, which gives you the recovery boost. So a knight could very trivially reach the recovery cap in 7. In 7, getting to the recovery cap is easy. So if you had 60 Arms Master, that's 120 recovery purged off on its own. Like, your knights wouldn't care if you cast haste, because your knights were just sitting at 30 recovery the whole time. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, there's 2 right there. Okay, let's deal with those. Oh man, this is rough. We haven't even started the hive. We're gonna hit another 3 o'clock soon. Sadly, there's no training here, so I can't. I'm just gonna try to burn this down. Burn that down. try to pull out because I don't know if there's two of them that can cast this. Or just one. I think it's two. I think that's two of these. Anyway, Greyface really added a lot of improvements to the general workability of these games. Just did so much to make them work. My first playthrough, I didn't use the Greyface patch, so the differences that Greyface added to the game, make a huge difference to me. I still remember the crazy ass dual wield mechanics because I've had to deal with them recently. Let's see here. Okay. So anyway, what was I thinking about? We were thinking about how we're going to handle the character builds. I think it might make sense to just make it a human shaman, honestly. I think the +3 to the armor skills is pretty decent as an effect. It's not like necessarily amazing on a character who doesn't get high mastery in their armor skills, right? We're only getting expert. But we are going to be stacking 2 because we are using shields. Because I think the effect applies to shield too, right? Yeah. So a human shaman, I think, might benefit a lot from that. They'd be able to get GM in this stuff earlier, which is good. They'd be able to get mastery and disarm trap, which is good. So they could also function as your skill character. Oof. I think there were 2 sets of meteor swarms coming down at the same time, so I waited until the first one hit and then ran straight into the second one. On the plus side, when I'm just running straight away from them on ground, I'm moving slowly enough that they just chase me, and that's useful because they'll chase me to basically it splits up the pack. And unfortunately, the Incinerate spell has the same damn sound effect as Meteor Swarm, so I can't just use audio cues. To dodge the Meteor Swarm. And it's very annoying. I'm not high enough for this, I don't think. But... that first one's down. You can go save. And... okay. Okay. Slope is actually pretty useful, because if the enemy's in the higher end of the slope, at least half of the meteor swarms are not going to hit me. So these slopes might be how I want to handle these. That's a boss, I think. Am I high enough? I guess it doesn't matter. I think that I might be able to stand high enough to avoid the meteor swarms. So this is regenerating. We really need to use a slope for this, but the issue with using a slope for it is that this thing can probably instigate Cortol, which it just did. Oh boy. Oh. Getting the one person that we cannot let get tagged from behind like that, because they're probably at like -6 trillion now. Okay. Fine. We got out. Whew. Okay. Save it up. Let's go over here. Okay, we got a little bit of damage into that thing, but it doesn't matter. It's probably regenerated to full. We're going to... I guess... I can't fight both of these at the same time, I don't think. I'm going to try to burn down this one. Yeah, this is going to come down to just lancing in and out and trying to do as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, they're so tiny. I need to try to burn you down. I guess I could also just be playing a little bit smarter by dodging as many attacks as possible. The issue with that is the fact that it has a tendency to put me out of position when that happens, which is going to happen periodically regardless. Okay, let's save this. Yeah, I think on a fundamental level, I needed to take the idea of protecting my healers much more seriously. With my build overall. The setting those two up as like the tankiest characters in my party from a fairly early period would have probably done a lot of work for me. And I can actually just... right. They have the ability to knock me out of the sky, I forgot. What? Why did I drop? Okay, I don't... Did Cortol seriously get, like, smacked at the exact same time that I cast the shared life, so I didn't even see him go down? Because I think that's what just happened, is that Cortol got hit from, like, full HP to unconscious, and then got pulled back to nearly full HP by the shared life. I think that's what happened. So rough having a character who's so important and so fucking squishy. Alright, we just hit the 3 o'clock again. And luckily we didn't have anybody die, so... We have an insanity effect that we need to purge, probably. Because I don't know how much mana regen she has, but probably not sufficient for this. Okay, this is Parrot. Let's see. Done. Oh, we got more plate armor.
I don't know.
It might be useful.
Chain.
Yes.
Okay. Alright, so we've burned through the first boss. We only have 6 trillion of them left. I'm going to go ahead and cast my E and C. Am I regenerating? No. Alright, we need to cast Cure Insanity. And because of the rules that we've established, we need to cast it on everybody. That is actually a substantial drop to my overall DPS. Like, the inability to just maintain that on Korgrik, Ashkor, and Severia is a very unfortunate thing. Because I think it drops accuracy, which isn't great. But it increases might and speed, so it's a very powerful effect. Alright, let's move on. We've cleared the first boss, and we have a bunch of slopes here that I could hypothetically use to my advantage. We have a puller here. That's terrifying. On the plus side, though, I am mostly going to be just flying around. So... okay, that is a lot of enemies that can cast Meteor Swarms. And who hit hard enough to knock a Cortal out of... knock us out of the sky. So yeah, I do think that I'm going to want to use a corner for this. But yeah, we should be able to clear out the exterior today. I don't think it's going to take an hour to clear the last few. I don't think we're going to have time to finish the interior today, though. Okay, we managed to split those up some more, which is good. We have this one over here we can deal with. And it's my hope that once we get into the demon base, things go reasonably smoothly. That's the hope. Because out here we've been struggling. And I don't recall the Hive really being that dangerous. I do recall it being way simpler than basically everything out here. Such a huge amount of just the overall efficacy of the demons is specifically tied into their ability to cast Meteor Swarm. I think I'm high enough that I can't be hit by the Meteor Swarm unless they knock me out of the sky. So we're set there. And definitely don't want to go over there. Oh. Pay close enough attention. Okay. Okie dokie. Right, they're sliding down, so that's why I'm doing a switch. Okay. Let's get out of here. Okay, yeah, we need to pull out and go save. But yeah, the healing throughput that Quarter has is pretty good. I really do want to be able to compare and contrast the amount of like healing that I'm doing with healing versus lifesteal. I feel like when I was fighting the dragons and stuff, it was a very different proportion than it is right now. My guess would be that a fairly significant portion of my healing right now is coming out of Korrick, because of the fact that I keep having to disengage from the fights and reset, right? I think that is basically going to change the proportionality, the proportion of damage that's coming out of the lifesteal versus the regen. Like right now, I basically just have to pull out, and I do think that if I shored up my weakest links in terms of durability, I could make a substantial improvement there to fuck. I think that my goal would be for a future playthrough is when I come to this location, that I'm able to basically just hold my own here and have it be chill. The other thing that I think I'm going to do, I think that if I do another playthrough, I do think I'm going to try to do a little bit of EXP maximization, because I think that would be fun. So basically just do a location in each zone, like basically do one location in each of these places, sort of like one by one. I'd need to figure out, I think I would need to do Might and Magic 7 last, because I think for Might and Magic 7 I'm going to have to lock in 3 maps at once. Might and Magic 6 is probably the first one to do. Because Might and Magic 6, you don't have to leave the first area to get to the place with the teleporters. Whereas in 7, you need to get to Harmondale, which requires 3 maps, and you need to do at least 2 maps for Might and Magic 8. So I think I would start with 6, move from 6 to 8, and then move from 8 to 7. And then once you've done that, you do like, I don't know, like Goblin Watch, next, probably. And that allows you to turn that quest in as well. Just trying to think of like what you get the most amount of experience from. You might get maybe you get the most experience actually from the Thinger place. I think that the bolster effect probably will. Does it apply when you turn in the quest? Does it does it apply to the zone? Does it apply to the? Huh, I actually don't know how the bolster effect will impact quest turn-ins. But basically, get the. I would probably go with Goblin Watch just for the sake of it. Go with Goblin Watch next, and then from Goblin Watch you do like I don't know, like the Trog Cave or Castle Harmondale. Probably Harmondale. Do Harmondale Castle. Why not? And then. Basically just create a route to maximize how high the bolster is going to get. And just see like how quickly the bolster rises when you're always fighting the maximum bolstered enemies that you can for every map that you enter. Right? Like it would be a completely different type of routing compared to what I normally do. Because normally it's like, no like backtracking, this kind of stuff. You have to do everything in a map the first time you get to it. And this would be the exact opposite of like, okay, you're going to a single map, you're fully clearing that map, and then you're going to, try to get to, you go to a map on a completely different continent as quickly as possible. With the goal being to sort of like, you're kind of emulating what you're doing with something like with the horizontal thing, but the goal being that by the end of the game you're like level 350 or 400 instead of me. I'm probably going to end closer to like 300 here because you're just maximizing the level of the enemies and thus the experience they're worth every single time, right? The alternative is to just make it so that bolster affects the continent that you're on as well as the other continents, where it's like bolster just continuously rises. But I don't think that that's as fun, and it requires like changing the way that bolster works. So making it so that you're pathing for maximum experience as opposed to just like changing the values to maximize experience. I think that the pathing is a more fun way to handle it. It would be very interesting to see how hard things are when, functionally speaking, you can't gain levels relative to your enemies. Because like one of the things that you end up with in the way that I'm playing it is that each time, for every continent that I'm on, there's a huge difficulty spike when I move to a new continent, and then the difficulty plummets as I complete that continent because it's not scaling at all, right? Everything is, everything's at the same value at the start and at the end.
This is nice.
That actually is pretty good. I like that. Yeah, so that's a thing that I have in mind to tinker with at some point. I'm gonna try to dick around with this and see if there's a place I can get here where I can protect myself from the meteor swarms. I don't think I can get in here. Maybe I can. I can get in here. I don't know that it helps me any, but no, it doesn't, because I can't get deep enough that the meteors from outside don't get me. So, is there another place here that might be useful? I doubt it. I think... No. Like, maybe under here, but probably not. And they're not even going to approach me very much, so... That Meteor Swarm didn't hit that hard, actually. So it does help substantially against the Meteor Swarms. The issue is just getting the enemies in range to hit me. Because I can't... Ooh! Here's the puller. We got the puller paralyzed. And it also blocks line of sight from a lot of them in a way that the terrain doesn't. So they're actually casting fewer Meteor Swarms in the first place. Not none, but fewer. We're probably going to die after we killed that thing, because I'm not going to get myself back in a position where I can feel comfortable pulling out of here. Should I try to run? I really want to... I want to keep lifestealing, so... Alright, we're going to try to run now. If we can get down the slope successfully, I think we might be okay. That honestly went fucking perfectly. That actually went perfectly. That was exactly what I was hoping for there, pretty much. It was... I mean, it wasn't, like, as good as I could hope for, right? Like, it could have been better for me, but that actually was really, really good. So, and yeah, I'd say that it went perfectly, because if basically it just broke the enemies and they stopped attacking me completely, I would think that that's less interesting than what happened. So, it actually did go perfectly. No notes. 0 notes. I'm very happy with how that fight went. So we've now killed the puller, and we can finish the rest of these. I think I might be a little too low. Whew. Look at that. We have 3 enemies left, I think. We might have a couple more hiding somewhere, but I don't think so. I think it's just these 3. So I can tag you. And hopefully not die to a Meteor Swarm cast by the one that I'm beating on. We can go over here. Okay. We can go over here. And this is rotating away. I need you to come back.
No room.
Let's see. Nice. Mission successful. So one of the... I think this is probably one of the hardest sections in this series, to be honest.
This is good.
You know who I should try to play with? Should I try bringing a monk into the party? I'll need to figure out if I can bring a monk into the party reasonably, because monks are a very fun class. And I think that the monk is probably going to struggle a lot at the beginning. Maybe not, because I just give them I get them up to Grandmaster staff before I get them to Grandmaster unarmed. So I could try doing a monk. Yeah, the monks would be very durable, right? The expectation of a monk being durable is very strong. They get Grandmaster dodge, and they get Grandmaster unarmed, and they get Grandmaster leather. So, like, they have a huge amount of effects that all stack together in a very, very tinky way. Because unarmed also gives durability, right? Like, unarmed gives you a chance to block an attack or something, right? Or does it not? I thought it did. Has this been changed? I feel like GM and Vanilla gave a chance to negate an attack completely. You dodge. I think these effects have been moved around a bit. I think these effects have been moved. You actually only need Master of Dodge to... That's interesting. Can you get Dodge? Probably not. I think Unarmed gave a % chance to just negate an attack before at GM. I didn't think that was tied to Dodge. I think that was tied to Unarmed. It was kind of a weird attribution in Vanilla. Let's find out. I'm gonna Google this because I'm curious. MM7 Unarmed. Let's see. So, yes, Grandmaster Unarmed gives you a 1% chance to evade attacks per skill point. Yes, so I was correct for that. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is correct. I know what I'm talking about. I'm correct. Shockingly, I sometimes am. All right, I'm going to save this, and we have about 40 minutes left. I don't think I want to jump into the Hive yet. I'm going to jump into the Hive tomorrow. But I don't want to end at this exact moment, and I don't have anything super intensive that I want to do with my gear at the moment either. So I think I'm actually going to do something weird. I'm going to hit new game, and I'm just going to take a look at if I was going to create a party, what it would look like, because we're getting close to the end of the game. So I would have a knight. That's a guarantee.
Is pure.
So we would have a knight. What would I want the knight to be? So you get access to Master Axe. And what
Fame and fortune await.
what portrait do I
I'm ready to
want?
go.
Where can I see the racials? Is there a way to like look at the? Is there a
Choose
My
my
side.
place to see the built-in racials?
You want me.
I've got what
You take me.
I guess I'd probably have to look at the actual thing, right? So, alright, so that would be, where would that be? Where would I find the racials? Is it in... It's presumably scripts, maybe? Menu, choose character, NPC4 is more. Spell tweaks, stealing, is it in classes? I don't think it would be under classes, right? You know the other thing? Because I didn't do these druid quests, that's part of the reason that Cortal is so squishy. Now that I think about it. Let me take a look, actually. How much of the problem that Cortal has is tied to just the fact that he doesn't have any max HP? Give me a second. Because these druid quests that they're like, be here at this exact time, are a problem for the way that I play the game. Let's see here. Can I even enter? I can. Okay. We can enter Colony Zod. That Colony Zod, that's what it's called. Let's see. What is it? No, Cortal is just a Marabou. So we don't have the we didn't complete the promotion quests in Might and Magic 6. So we completed the promotion quest in 8, but not in 6. So I don't remember like what the whole tiering system is once you for the whole thing, but basically we don't have the like Elder affix, so we're losing out on some base HP as a result of that. So Cortal should have a bit more base HP than he does right now, which is then modified by the endurance. Because Cortal has quite a lot of endurance. Cortal has 1782 and has like much lower HP than the other character who has a little bit less. Right. Nobody's ultimate right now because we haven't completed the class quests here. Right? We haven't done the quests here, so that would... We could get the... We need to go to Evanmorn Island. That'll help us a lot. But yeah, the others are going to upgrade to ultimate at some point. They're going to be so tanky. Look at the HP on this guy. Look at this motherfucker. 27,000. Insane. So much HP. And not that much endurance. We have not invested that heavily into DPS or endurance stats for this character. So it's so funny that we still have the Scholar's Cap equipped. I'm very happy that we decided to equip the Scholar's Cap on someone who, it's honestly fine. Like, it's not that big a deal. Cortal doesn't give me quite as much regeneration as a result of that, but is still pretty... Korgrik doesn't give me as much regeneration as a result of that, but it's still pretty good. I shouldn't have both Korgrik and Cortal in the same party. This is a mistake. The two characters were created at the same time. They were originally brothers. They are no longer the same species, but they were originally like very closely tied. Funnily enough, Cortal and Korgrik are almost completely unrelated now. They have very little relationship, even though they were originally created as like brothers in a short story that I made. But yeah, now they have no relationship whatsoever. It was actually a writing project for in high school that those two characters originally derived from. I think Komanatin also came from there, from those kinds of writing projects. I think Sordrell maybe. A lot of my characters actually derived from writing practices in creative writing class back in high school. Funnily enough, I might have had some of those characters I probably already had built up. I think Komanatin. Komanatin didn't come from there, but I did use Komanatin in those. Korgrik. I think Korgrik probably was the same deal where he didn't actually originate there, but Cortal I think did. I don't think that I had Cortal. I didn't play Cortal. I think is predated by that story. So, I guess not predated, but it dates back to it. Anyway, so I'm going to end things here for now, because I might do some digging through the data files and stuff like that to think about like what I would do in terms of like the overall build and stuff like that. But I'm going to actually take a little break first, and I'm probably just not going to. I'll probably do that on stream. Maybe after I finish the game, I'll do most of that like planning stuff, like the hard planning where I'm like, okay, well, what am I doing? What do I want? That kind of stuff. I might find the stuff in advance, but even if I find the stuff in advance, I'm going to immediately know what I want to do with it, right? I'm going to immediately have an idea of how I want to play with it. So most likely, I'm just going to do all that on stream once I finish this run. But that's going to be it for today. So thank you for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure streaming for you today. We have finished up Land of the Giants. It was easier than I expected and a little bit harder than I expected. The meteor swarms were hitting harder than I expected, after seeing how Titans were doing with me, I was kind of expecting the Meteor Swarm to not be as deadly as it is in vanilla. It was definitely just as deadly as it is in vanilla. But the dragons were pretty simple. Dragons and Titans were really no problem. So that's it. Later, folks.